So Electrify, why are you here?
Well,
Dude, have you even seen his Twitch yet? It's insane. I was watching his whole entire stream and Robtop just practically did a Nintendo Direct.
yeah, I'm just gonna... How to get it...
Oh, right. So why are you scared of 2.2 news?
What's not to be scared of it? Robtop has been insanely active since the past month and something's gone to him. I feel like something's up with Robtopala. I feel
Calm
like...
down and relax. Besides, it's not like you've missed a lot of info about 2.2 anyway.
Guys, have you seen Rob's Twitch? It's insane. He's online right now. There's so much stuff going on right now. Like, there's the new icons that he showed. The chat's going poggers right now. And on top of that, so you just want to like ignore this?
Well, I think it's up to me and no one else to do the job of discussing about these. But anyways, hope God blesses my soul as I will look into every single Robtop VOD on Twitch and discussing each one by one. So this is it. These are all of the things that we've got so far on Robtop's Twitch. So first off, Robtop reveals some newer shards onto the new update. It shows that there's not only earth shards, metal and blood shards, but we also got light and soul shards too. I really wonder what the icons for these newer shards could be. Perhaps some of the icons will be placed onto the shards? Actually, now thinking about it, where could Robtop place the icons from the icon contest in? Secret shop? The shards? I don't know. But getting sidetracked a little, Robtop also revealed a ton, and I mean a ton, of gauntlets a couple of streams ago. The gauntlets were shown were... Forest Gauntlet, Rune Gauntlet, Forest Gauntlet, Spooky Gauntlet, Dragon Gauntlet, Water Gauntlet, Haunting Gauntlet, Acid Gauntlet, Witch Gauntlet, Power Gauntlet, Potion Gauntlet, Snake Gauntlet, Toxic Gauntlet, Halloween Gauntlet, Treasure Gauntlet, Ghost Gauntlet, Spider Gauntlet, Gem Gauntlet, Inferno Gauntlet, Portal Gauntlet, Strange Gauntlet, Fantasy Gauntlet, Christmas Gauntlet. Holy shit, how many are there? Surprise Gauntlet, Mystery Gauntlet, Curse Gauntlet, Cyber Gauntlet, Castle Gauntlet, Grave Gauntlet, and Temple Gauntlet. Oh my god. But yeah, there was so many gauntlets to even talk about. I have no idea to even say about it. It's honestly so cool that Robtop is shooting out so many of these gauntlets all at once. It's absolutely insane. There's even speculation that 2.2 is going to be out on Halloween. This speculation is sparked because of the fact that there's a Halloween gauntlet and Robtop started to become extremely active today. So seeing that, people can make the theory that it's going to come out in 2.2, which somewhat makes sense, right? Well, no, of course not. Robtop still doesn't know the release date for 2.2, and besides, there is already a Christmas gauntlet as well, which wouldn't make sense as to how that connects to 2.2. I don't know why people are making this connection, but regardless, I doubt that's ever going to happen at all. Up next we got is this clip. This clip shows Robtop showcasing a bunch of animations for fire and other animation particles like a lightning zap and a smoke particle. These particles and animation looks pretty cool, and I'm pretty sure that you can be able to change the color of these, but either way, these colors look amazing regardless, and I love to see them being added onto 2.2. Robtop also showed this on a stream where he showed a new feature that can be done with platform mode. He went on a stack of blocks which seemed like the user was sticking onto the block's movement. He later went on check non-stick from an extra options menu. This is something new that he hasn't talked about. The screen shows don't fade, don't enter, no effects, group parent, high detail, untouchable, passable, hide, non-stick, and ice block. We pretty much know almost everything about the left side of the menu. I would presume that don't fade and don't enter affects the fade and transition when you scroll through the level. No effects, I can't really be sure about what this could be. Group parent has to do with the being of its priority of what I assume to be a group ID. High detail. Yeah, we already know what this does. Moving on. Untouchable seems confusing because I would assume it lets you pass through the block. However, there's already an option called passable, so I can't really tell for certain. My assumption on the hide option is that just like the hide trigger, it would make it invisible, but still there to the user. Non-stick was basically shown for us as Robtop demonstrates it on stream. And Ice Block has already been told by Robtop. Robtop earlier claimed that Ice Blocks can make a block have low friction a year ago. This is for certain what this option is for. If you have any doubts about it, you may let me know in the comments below. Also, another thing, what the f***? Yeah, in the stream, you can see a completely new game mode dedicated for platform mode, I assume. And someone acts like how a ship would, only now we're able to control the X-axis. This kind of looks really sick to see play in action. I don't know, it wouldn't make sense to have a ship mode in platformer because, well, it would look kind of weird. So I think that's why Rob built this jetpack mode. It would be pretty weird to include this as a new game mode in a normal side scroller that we all recognize. I don't know, it's very weird seeing two of practically the same game modes in the editor, but aside from that, it's a decent execution of a new substitute for the ship in platform mode. On top of that, we got some new camera filters that were added onto the new update and later were shown on stream. The stream showcased a bit of the new camera filters, one of which is a new grayscale with a light blue tint added onto it, according to him on the stream. Robtop later on in October has revealed a bulge effect where it pops inward onto the camera. This is kind of a cool new effect that would look amazing and drops the levels. However, the effect, in my opinion, looks a bit too uncanny. I wish we can get an easing option for the bulge effect because that would end up with a more versatile editor for these effects to come. In the next clip, you can see Robtop rating a level and deciding on the chat whether or not to rate it. As it turns out, when he made a grammar error, he clicked on a character on the text and fixed it. This is very subtle, but GD did not have this feature at all, and it took a few prying eyes to catch it. So, instead of having to hold backspace on your keyboard, you can now select characters in a comment. On this next clip, you can see Robtop showcasing some more animations, which includes zaps coming in on a straight line, going in circles, and going in a square. There's also squiggly lines going through the screen. This is sort of a neat effect that can be used for block designs in 2.2, as it can be used for some really cool lasers. Unfortunately, there's not much else for this clip, but yeah, that's about it. In this clip, you can see, oh my god, versus mode? That is amazing to see. I can't wait to race with other people in this game now. I just realized I wrote Pepe in the scripts. Also, if you look closely, you can spot a completely new icon rolling in the main menu, so that's also nice to see in the new update. On this next clip, you can see Robtop showcasing an effect called Pixelate, which when playing through the level, it compresses the game quality and downscales it into pixels. This is honestly a neat effect to have for levels, especially on pixel art levels, and it seems to be that way considering that Robtop has added a ton of pixel art blocks to be used in 2.2. Speaking of pixel art blocks, he also scrolls through a tab that's filled to the brim with pixel art blocks, which definitely stands my point on him promoting a lot of pixel art related art in newer levels in 2.2. I suppose we barely get anything like that on this update. Also, one last thing, you can see the menu inside the effects. You can control how much they split vertically and horizontally, the duration of the effect, and of course, the easing type. That's quite a bit of variety and options to mess around with in the editor, and it's pretty great to see Robtop making the editor more versatile than it already is. The next clip we got is more the auto draw feature. The auto draw feature actually looks a lot more finished in comparison to last time that we saw it, as we only had a copy button. Now we have 4 more options. Reference only, allow rotating, allow flipping, and use nearby as reference. We don't know what the reference is referring to, but we can definitely assume that the rotating and flipping options allows us to be able to rotate and flip block designs. There's also this template button in the corner of the menu. I don't know. This has not been seen in the old showcase, so I'm assuming it shows a bunch of designs the player has made to be able to use to copy onto the blocks. Another clip that we got here is from his Twitch. This video showcases an effect trigger called Chromatic. Chromatic, as you can see, is an RGB splitting effect where it splits primary colors away from each other. It's honestly pretty cool to see in action. Robtop then goes on to the effects tab on the level editor, which reveals a crap ton of more effects. These effects are shader, shockwave, shockline, glitch, chromatic, chromatic glitch, pixelate, lens circle, radial blur, motion blur, bulge, pinch, grayscale, sepia, and invert colors. Holy yeah, there was so many effects that were listed in the tab that could pretty much excite anyone. I genuinely think that these effects are going to be a cool addition to these levels, especially when stuff like motion blur and chromatic glitch is listed in it. I also wonder how levels are going to be implemented with this. Will these effects be an additional difficulty to each level? Not sure. Also, we can see in the beginning of showcasing the effects of some new triggers. End, options, stop jump, and gradient. We've already heard a bit about both options and gradient. However, stop jump and end trigger? Yeah, we've never really heard anything about these, and I kind of wonder what these trigger will do in the editor, but the world may never know. Also, I love how he still calls his project name Geometry Jump. I just think that's a little funny thing that he has still going on. In this next clip, you can see Robtop messing around with the platform of physics in the editor. It appears that slopes also affect gravity, meaning if it goes up on a slope, then the icon's momentum decreases. When it goes down on the slope, the icon's momentum increases. I would like to see some nice physics being added for things like puzzles and parkour levels. I don't know, I think it'll be kind of cool. The next clip we have shows Robtop playing with arrows? Yeah, I honestly thought these arrows would be used for air deco and details for block time, but this is placed under the trigger tab in the editor, so what function does it serve exactly? My best guess is that it could be used as a directional trigger. Another thing to notice here in the clip is that there are other triggers in the tab. If you didn't notice, there are a couple of new triggers going for in the editor that we haven't seen before. More specifically, ADV RAND, rotate camera, and edge camera. There's also reverse trigger and reverse end trigger, which makes the level go in reverse without the need of reverse orbs. If that's the case, then I don't know how to feel about that, to be honest with you. I don't like having to read levels only to be hit with a sudden backwards trigger and messes up my focus. It makes things unplayable and loses control of where you're at. And on the other hand, you can also see this in platform mode in sections of levels, which is probably the only reasoning why this would exist as far as that goes. The next clip we have is, Jesus Christ, Robtop, you're having way too much fun with the editor. Yeah, he's just playing around with the platform mode that he created, but then he goes on in the editor and immediately you can notice something interesting. Firstly, the blade in the level editor is actually spinning on its own in the editor. Normally in the editor, the blades stay in place when it's placed in the editor. However, in the clip, you can see it moving perfectly fine. It is a bit insignificant to the update, but if it were to be added, it'll be a nice touch. I honestly don't mind it being added. The second thing you can notice are the new pixel art tabs, in which you can see a ton of new pixel art blocks to be seen and more yet to be seen within the editor. And lastly, you can see a completely new tab that looks very weird. I don't know. It has a weird texture to it. Probably not finished. Later on, Robtop also showcased some new idle animations in platform mode and what would it play if the user goes idle for too long. You can see that the robot already hopping up and down already, but if it stands still for too long, you can see it jubilating, and holy fuck, it looks so adorable. I really wish there was more of these idle animations for variety. It doesn't give anything new to the gameplay experience, but it's still really cute to watch it jump like that. I don't know, it's pretty cool. Speaking of animations, Robtop was also playing user levels, and he also reveals an animation being played in normal mode. The quality isn't too good, and I'm sorry if it looks like ass cheeks, but if you look closely, you can see the robot waddling and bopping his head up and down while it runs. This kind of makes the game a lot more lively. Again, it's pretty cute to see these animations being played in 2.2. Maybe we can have multiple animations for the robot, maybe even some unlockables along the way, who knows. The next clip shows Robtop showcasing a bunch of new fireballs, flames, explosives, and other animations to be used in 2.2, and gotta say, holy hell, does this look like a goldmine for Michael Bay. Honestly, I can't tell you how many animations Robtop made for this showcase. This is literally insane. There's also zaps and magic spark animations to be used for 2.2. It's so cool. On this next clip, we have the setup menu for the shockwave effect, and Robtop playing around with it. It shows the speed, strength, fading, size, the time offset, and the width of the options. There's also an invert checkbox, which is pretty obvious as to what it can do. I kind of dig this one as an effect, and it can definitely be used within GD levels if it's executed very well. There's also two other effects that Robtop has showcased on Twitch. These effects are invert color effect and gray scale effect. I don't want to sound like a record player, but dude, these effects do look pretty nice. As said by Robtop on stream, it can be used for drops as a switch, and he demonstrated it pretty nicely. There's also two options, which are target and duration. Now, these effects shown are going to be abusable in 2.2. Of course not. What does Robtop think we are, dumbasses? No, we're masochists, not dumbasses. Plus, there's obviously going to be in moderation in terms of gameplay as well, so we'll have to keep that in mind. Hey, do you want to see more Robtop f***ing around with the editor? Thought you might ask. Yeah, another instance of Robtop messing around with the editor again, and at this point, I'm not even surprised. What's interesting about this clip in particular, however, is that you can actually see the blocks changing in size of its height and width. Could there possibly be a new scale trigger in 2.2? And to my surprise, yes. For a glimpse moment, you can see Robtop showing off the new scale trigger just waiting to happen in 2.2. I'm honestly pretty stoked about seeing this one happening in 2.2. I mean, this is a heavily requested feature to have in 2.2. And seeing it appear all of a sudden on stream is just... what? But yeah, I'm surprised not a lot of people are talking about this one trigger in particular. I mean, it's been requested of Robtop for many years, so I don't get how no one noticed this one. Regardless, I'm glad to see it in the editor. We haven't seen much about the time warp trigger and how it functions within the editor at all. Fortunately, Robtop had showcased this one onto one of his streams. While messing around with platform mode, he used the trigger along with a bunch of spikes. He also demonstrated a bit of the new scale system that we've seen before. The only menu inside of the time warp trigger is the tool mod slider, which I'm assuming controls how slow the time warp does to the player. I think that the time warp trigger isn't really that substantial into the editor. I mean, who knows? It'll probably be the best fucking thing ever, but yeah, I don't see this being a huge deal in the GD community. In this next clip, you can see Robtop showcasing the camera rotate trigger. He doesn't go in the edit menu of the trigger, but he does demonstrate that the camera can be rotated now, presumably also being able to control how many degrees the user wants. Is an interesting trigger that I feel like can take effect into a lot of minigame levels and other great concepts for level designing. Also, if you pay close attention, you may also spot reverse orbs on the left and right side of the level. When the icon reaches the end of the level, it makes him go back and reverse, which does prove my assumption on what the reverse trigger does. Now, if you thought you were done with the effects, you're dead ass wrong. In this clip, you can see Robtop going into a user level called Electrify, testing out more effects. Robtop demonstrates on what not to do with the bulge effect, as we can also see what the bulge effect does. After he demonstrates the bulge effect and what not to do with it, he also showcases a new effect called Radial Blur. Radial Blur creates this directional blur for all directions, and it looks pretty sick to see. If it's applied correctly, this could also be used in levels with the right atmosphere and theming, or it just makes glow look like the fucking sun. But yeah, aside from that, Radial Blur, pretty neat compared to the rest of the effects. Now, you're wondering from some of the Twitch clips on how exactly do Robtop go through blocks and stay at the top. I thought he was using no clip to test out collisions or something along the lines of that, but this isn't the case. At one point in his streams, you can see Robtop selecting platforms and going in the edit object menu. You may notice a sneaky little button over here in the corner of the screen. That's because this lets you activate some of the options that has to do with the collision of the platform. One of those options being passable. Yes, this means that players can now pass through the platform, which is a really nice feat to use not just through platform mode, but can also be applied to over to normal mode. Speaking of that extra menu, Robtop sometime demonstrated a new collision option for a platform called Untouchable. As shown in the clip, this disables the collision on the platform and allows users to go through said platform. I don't see this one being used often in normal levels, but if done right, this could be really cool to see it being used in platformer levels. It could also be used for fake blocks as well, which works well for both platformer and normal mode. Other than that, I don't see any use for this option. Our next one is another effect that Robtop wanted to showcase. Robtop really likes effects, huh? Anyways, during the clip, you can actually see him using another effect called pinch. Pinch is more as an opposite to the bulge effect, whereas instead of popping outward, it now pops inward, if that makes sense. Is it the best effect out of the rest? Well, nevertheless, this is yet another sweet effect that can be used properly, like how Robtop demonstrated in the clip. Our next one we got is another effect.
Jesus, how many effects?
Okay, this is gonna be the last time I cover effects. I know I've covered a lot of them here, but this is seriously the last time he uses effects. Anyways, in this one we got a really blurry portion of the Electrify level. The new effect that he used? Well, he used the new motion blur effect, an effect most likely affected by nearsighted people. He went on to the options menu for the effect, and you can see the easing type, target X, target Y, and the duration. An interesting bit is that there's also use X and use Y, meaning it could be controlled vertically and horizontally. It sounds like a sweet idea. That is, if the motion blur was done correctly and not made it look like my lens wore out. Seriously, for a second there, I thought I needed new prescription glasses. Nevertheless, good effect, but showcase it better since that's all that we got. Now, if you really want to start creating that one bit in press start, you know the one. Well, here's the new edge camera trigger. Pretty much the edge camera stops scrolling at a certain limit, and it's good for something like platform mode or anything in normal mode where you just want to leave the camera alone and have the player focus on one particular thing. Also, you might have noticed how the icon is flipped upside down when pressed. Yeah, this is the new F blocks, which took me a bit to notice, but hey, here they are. It presumably flips the gravity of whatever icon when touching the block. It could be pretty neat for a cool level design. I don't know. It's definitely possible to recreate this in 2.1, so there's not much reasoning to add this in, but I mean, hey, I wouldn't complain about something that doesn't do harm. On this next clip, you can see a whole bunch of new pixel art decorations, one of the new tabs in 2.2. He scrolls down through a lot of them and also changes his color channels as well. He then goes over to the orb tab, and in it you can see a few noticeable things. First of all, there's 2 spider portals and 3 teleportation portals. We only have 1 teleportation portal in our editor, so Rob kind of needs to explain about these new portals. Also, while scrolling through the orb tab, you can also see the recurring F block, a directional block, and squares? My assumption is that the directional block hits the opposite direction once you're on the block, and the squares might be the new particle system that Robtop revealed a long time ago. Robtop then hops into the one tab that we were questioning about from earlier, and we can see that the monsters have changed its place onto this tab now. Speaking of which, there's a new monster that can be shown right next to each other. Also, we can see that all the new tab were the animations that have been seen from earlier. So yeah, a couple things that could be spotted from this clip. And while it didn't bring anything substantial, it did brought up new stuff that we're not explained yet that seems interesting. And lastly, we got this ball icon that was shown during one of Rob's love requests. And you know what? It ain't half bad. I wouldn't personally use the icon myself, but I can definitely see this being used by players. Oh hey, I got over it. I talked about every single 2.2 news that appeared on Rob's Twitch. Thank you so much.
Don't mention it. I'm sure there's not a lot of info you missed about My voice ain't working today.